What is going on, guys? Rewinds here, and in this video I'm going to be bringing you guys the full spoilers to Boruto 2 Blue Vortex manga chapter number 27. So first things first, I do want to say thank you guys for helping me hit over 6,000 subscribers on YouTube. Definitely wanted to shout you guys out for that first. As for the actual leaks, so we are going to jump around in two different ways in this video, so this is probably going to be a pretty damn long video, I'm not gonna lie. But the first part of this video is gonna be covering some dialogue from the chapter. Pretty much every page's worth of dialogue, which will be done here by Kaz. And then a little bit later in the video, it's gonna be more so the actual panels along with some rough translations. So the reason why this month I'm doing stuff like this is because there were some leak issues that happened with the leakers this month. I believe somebody new leaked the actual content of the chapter, and pretty much it was a mess because the chapter came out not even in order. So honestly, just for the leakers in general and for the actual translators, it was just a little bit more of a mess than what it usually is. So that's kind of why I'm going about it this way, because the translations you're going to get right now for the dialogue at the start of this video are probably going to be more accurate than some of the rougher ones you'll see with the panels towards the later part of the video. But up to you guys what you guys want to see as part of the video. Do what you got to do. But let's get started. Again, shout out to Kaz for this information. So here we are coming up to here. These are all the pages. So, here we go. We're going to start on page 1, of course. There's no text. Page 2, the most important thing is Damon saying, "You get it now, right? Depending on my mood, wiping you all out takes a second. Before you even realize you're dead." Page 3, Sarada says, "You're not going to kill me?" Ada says, "No matter how you look at it, it's unnatural. Why would you, who aren't even Otsutsuki, be unaffected by omnipotence? No, that alone doesn't explain how you remember Boruto. The fact that you're so attached to Kawaki and Boruto, there are more like you in and outside the village, and yet only you were unaffected. There's only one possible explanation." So another thing, I am going to react to these as we go, because I have not really looked at too much of what's been going on in this chapter. I know little tidbits, but I am going to react as we go. And based off how this is going so far, it seems like we're getting the key points of the pages at the moment. So, yeah, let's go with that. Moving on. Page 4. Ada says, "I personally excluded you." Oops, sorry about that. "Personally excluded you. You too, of course, unconsciously. It means deep down I wanted that. Omnipotence made it come true." So, seems like it's confirmed now that this is more of an unconscious thing on Ada's end. A lot of people speculated that Sumire and Sarada probably didn't get affected because they were in love with Boruto. And that seems like that's been disproven. And honestly, that wasn't too bad of a theory either, because Boruto is an Otsutsuki. Maybe there was, some sort of like way they could have wrote it around that. But this isn't bad either. Makes sense with how omnipotence works. So that's Ada's explanation. Page 5 is Sumire basically just saying why, and Ada says, "Back then, Sarda-chan, didn't you tell me that?" And page 6, Ada says, "I was happy, because that's exactly what I had always wished for from you two. Even before meeting you directly, I'm not really sure though. Either way, for me it was a long cherished, a genuine human relationship at this point. You two, I don't think you'd try to harm me. Besides, well..." And then page 7, Ada saying, "If you're the ones to kill me, I think I'd be okay with that." Page 8 is no text. So, sounds like Ada is cool with taking the risk on them, but I mean, she is probably pointing, out to Damon as well, who's lurking around here, and clearly Damon can take them out. They should be happy that Damon didn't continue attacking, but What happened last chapter was clearly to prove a point, and that point being that Damon can take them out easily. There were some people honestly saying that, oh, maybe Sarada could have done something with Genjutsu or whatnot to take out Damon, but honestly, it's like a whole different class when it comes to power, at least right now. And Damon's just on another level. Sarada's just not there yet, and we don't know if she's going to get there. But no Genjutsu in disguise, unfortunately for those Sarada fans that were hoping for that as the surprise in this chapter. Page 9, Sarada says, I've never heard of that. Ada says, pretty bold words for someone saying that, Sarada-chan. Sarada says, it's my own kind of resolve. It's also a token of friendship in a way. Page 10, Sumire says, I don't dislike you. Ada says, thanks to both of you. So they're pretty much clearing up the air with her a little bit, it sounds like. So this is another, I guess, plot thread that's going to be a little bit more resolved now going forward, a little bit more open. Page 11, Ada says, once again, nice to meet you, my precious friends. Page 12, Koji is talking now, and he's saying that Mamushi divides, and that's one of his abilities. Inojin says, division? Koji says there's virtually no limit to their numbers. Boruto says, is it like the Shadow Clone or something? Koji says, no, it's a completely different thing. The biggest difference is each individual body is a real one. Therefore, the chakra is also split, and there's no drop in strength or stamina. So just based off reading what page 12 is alone here, this ability is super OP. I have seen that there is a con to this, and that makes sense because otherwise this would be pretty damn rough. But let's go over that. But looking at it now, I mean, to be able to split and not even have to split strength or stamina is pretty damn crazy. Page 13, Shikamaru says they just keep multiplying while staying strong. That's seriously bad, right? Koji says there's just one thing. The more Mamushi there are, their intelligence drops significantly. They also become more sensitive to pain, and their behavior gets simpler. That's the opening we can exploit. Shikamaru says once they've multiplied to a point of being dumb, so the best solution is to wipe them all out at once. Koji says exactly. And one more thing. This is a critical point. So we're going to get to that, but as you see, the big con to his ability is the fact that he gets dumber. And that's pretty much what they're going to have to take advantage of, and him becoming more sensitive to pain. So in a way, it sounds like that might be more of a durability thing, even though their strength and stamina is up. Maybe the durability isn't as high. Maybe that's what's being said here. But that aside, their intelligence for sure drops, and the behavior gets simpler, and that's something they got to take advantage of. So Koji now, on page 14, is saying be sure to destroy both of his eyes. A body that loses its eyes can no longer divide. So, okay, that's a key point, to take out his eyes so there's no more division going on. Inojin says his eyes. Koji says, but be careful. Shikamaru says, the few of him there are, each individual becomes stronger, but if they multiply too much, we won't be able to contain them. So they want him to multiply, but not to the point where it's uncontrollable. Koji says, use 20 to 30 bodies as a benchmark. That makes them easier to handle. Like dealing with wild animals. Ideally, we should wipe them all out in one swoop or one sweep. So, I do like this ability in the regard that I feel like, one, he's going to make for a tough opponent until he becomes really stupid. But I also feel like this is a good opportunity to keep letting some side characters shine. We did get that in the Sand Arc just recently, and I hope that we get to follow through with that more in this upcoming arc. I feel like that could be pretty cool. Page 15, Shikamaru says, just hypothetically, what if one of the split bugs stayed behind at the base? Even if we wipe out all the ones in the village, wouldn't he survive? Koji says that won't be a problem. Split bodies naturally flock together, even if he had some waiting far away. Shikamaru says, I see, and the dumber they get, the better. So, again, good question by Shikamaru, but Koji says it won't be an issue. Inojin says, even so, why go out of our way to confront them in the village? If we understand this much, shouldn't we strike before they invade? Good question by Inojin, but he doesn't know Jura's values, which I think is what Koji's going to say here. Koji says on page 16, the reason we're choosing to fight in Konoha is Jura's targets are Boruto and Himawari. If they move, so will Jura. Inojin says, why? Shikamaru says, what kind of connection is there? Seems like he's taken a liking to Konoha. He's been regularly showing up at bookstores and sweet shops. He's been spotted multiple times. So Jura's really just enjoying the village scenery, it seems like. Inojin says, seriously? Shikamaru says, I've had the sensory team reported just in case, but the reality is there's nothing we can do but leave it be. I've also instructed the police force not to get involved. Page 18. Koji says, Jura does not approve of the rampaging in the Leaf. Mamushi understands that as well, too. So, as not to incur Jura's wrath, he'll likely refrain from any unnecessary destruction in the village as well. So, at the very least, we shouldn't be expecting some pain level stuff here where the village just gets completely murked, even though we know that Mamushi has the power to do that with, how much stronger these Shinju are. Boruto says, are you calling me an idiot? Koji says, it's an instinctual sense. Even if his intelligence drops significantly, his fear of Jura will never disappear. Likewise, his awareness of the goal to target Ada too. Therefore, if we are able to deal with just the bug, the hidden Leaf Village is the perfect place for it. And honestly, I think Koji's spitting right now. This is making sense. Inojin says on page 19, I see. Then Koji says, and Inojin, you're going to learn a new jutsu. It's a new technique that's a superior version of mind-body transmission. That's why I brought you here. A new jutsu? And page 20, Koji saying, Mamushi is expected to appear in the village in about a week. No, there's also a chance it might be sooner. In any case, there's no time. Master that jutsu within 2 days at the latest. Inojin says, 2 days? Wait, hold on. I don't even know what kind of jutsu it is. Koji says, you should be able to do it. After all, it is a jutsu you came up with yourself, to avenge Himawari. Inojin says, what did you just say? And Koji then says, of course, it's a future we must avoid. The theory and skills you gain there are highly valuable in and of themselves. I will teach them to you. Inojin says, I don't need 2 days. I'll master it in a single day. So that's the spark right there for Inojin to learn this technique. The fact that Himawari died in one of these alternate futures, and this jutsu was made by Inojin in order to avenge her. So this is probably going to be, a pretty big level up of the mind transfer stuff than anything we've seen before. And I'm kind of glad that we're getting Inojin to become more relevant in this case. I like to see more side characters shine, and I'm happy to see it's heading this way for him. Kawaki says, did you grasp anything? Amado says, so there's a watermark on some of these leaks, which is part of the issue, and that's why some of the translation isn't there, but most of these, as you guys have seen, should be there. But pretty much it says watermark, and then in that tree he produces, it's likely safe to assume it's the same god tree as his own. Page 23, a lot of dialogue here. Amado says, not only does it heal their wounds, it functions as a powerful weapon and an impenetrable shield. Kawaki says, so what? You sound like you're saying it has no weakness. Amado says, far from having a weakness, it's to the point I'm starting to think it might be immortal. This thing is already. Kawaki says, it is possible to bring it down completely. I definitely felt that kind of response. We need more power. Amado says, Kawaki, I won't say anything bad, but this is as far as I go. Page 24, Kawaki says, want me to crush your throat? Quit running your mouth and just do what you were told. For the sake of your daughter, if you want my cooperation. So Kawaki's going to use this as a bargaining chip going forward. Kawaki wants more power, and he does feel like the Shinju are defeatable, but he definitely thinks he needs more power. Amado says, your body is telling you it can't take anymore. This is an issue before even fighting him. You'll only destroy yourself. Page 26, Kawaki says, don't make me repeat myself. Granting your wish only comes after I wipe out every last enemy. You want to see your daughter, don't you? Then man up already. Are you going to kill the enemies or will I die before that? There's no choice but to take this gamble. Either way, you. So that's pretty much their scene. Now we cut over to Konohamaru who's being interrogated, it seems like. And that's on page 26. Konohamaru says, that's exactly what I said earlier. I was actually one of the people against Boruto, just following orders. Kobu says, unfortunately, it's only natural for a traitor to act that way. That's exactly why we need to investigate. That's the reason you're here now. Konohamaru says, at the very least, I, at that moment in time, even hated Boruto, but honestly now, Konohamaru says, if anything, the image of the one labeled as a traitor, I'm starting to feel some contradiction to it, or contradiction in it. So Konohamaru's catching on to things, which is good, because we've been seeing that in the last arc or so, and even a little before that, that something fishy is up here, and that Boruto's traitor label might not be exactly what it's made out to be. Kobu says, I don't know what was fed into your head. Don't you think you were just being used for convenience? And besides, even if you did voice something resembling an opinion in this situation, do you understand your position? So this part, the translator Kaz doesn't know if this is Kobu or Konohamaru talking, but it says, calling it honesty sounds nice, but you're just a foolish man. We still can't rule out the possibility that he's a traitor too. I'm assuming that's Kobu, but I might be wrong. Page 29, Kobu says, the one who helped Boruto escape is someone else. Shikamaru says, Konohamaru, it's me. Respond without speaking aloud. Konohamaru says, Lord 8th? Shikamaru says, there's no time, so I'll get straight to the point. Okay, just listen calmly. I'm the one who let Boruto escape. Shikamaru says, I gave Mitsuki the passcode and had him unlock it. I'm still cooperating with Boruto of my own will. Konohamaru says, why would you? Then we get some Boruto small flashbacks. Shikamaru says, it might only be a matter of time before they catch on to what I'm doing. Konohamaru, I'm sorry for pushing this on you one-sidedly, but... And then Shikamaru through the mind is saying, I want you to help us. Of course, what you do is up to you. If you can believe in me, please lend me your strength. So now, seems like Konohamaru is going to join cahoots here too, more than likely so, with Shikamaru. At least that's what I believe. But we do cut away from that scene. We have been jumping around a lot in this chapter to a couple different fronts. And again, that's something I've been liking in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex personally. And I hope that we keep doing that going forward, because it's cool to see, a couple different plot lines progress. So page 32, Sumire says, oh right, I should probably head to the lab soon. Sarada says, well, I should get going too. Ada says, you're not getting away, Sarada-chan. We're not done talking yet. Sarada says, Sumire, help me. Sumire says, see you later, Sarada. Have fun. So Sumire just dipped. Sarada stuck there. And then Boruto says, yo. Sumire says, Boruto-kun? And I have seen a panel of this one. Boruto's basically just standing outside a door when Sumire walks out. So, little interaction there. And Boruto says, Uchiha-style sword technique, blade morph. Constantly wrap chakra around the blade to enhance sharpness and prevent chipping. But for just a moment I lost my focus, and this is what happened. It chipped. Page 35, Boruto says, sorry class rep, I want this fixed within a week. Sumire says, huh? Me? Boruto says, take a look at it. Sumire says on page 36, this technique is. Boruto says, yeah, as of now, it's a technique that doesn't exist in this world yet. It lies at the end of the research you're currently conducting. Eventually, you'll invent it yourself. I can't tell you anything more specific than that. Will you do it? So, it seems like, what Boruto is working with and the technique he's referring to is something Sumire comes up with, which is pretty damn impressive, little boost to Sumire right there. Cool stuff. And it seems like Boruto's kind of giving her that push to figure things out a little sooner. Page 37, Sumire says, I were to fix it using this technique, I think it would essentially become an entirely different thing. Are you really okay with that? Boruto says, stronger blade? Even my master shouldn't complain, And I want to say right there, I might be wrong, but this is probably one of the first we've gotten from Boruto in the series, right? In 2 Blue Vortex. This might mean Boruto might have a little bit of a brighter tone here going on. So that's some cool stuff to see. Sumire says, "Alright, got it. But just one thing. There's a problem." Boruto says, "What?" So page 38 is missing for some reason. Again, leaker issue. Page 39, which is the last thing over here, is a time jump to several days later. Mamushi saying, "With this, wonder where they're hiding. Big sis Ada too. Make sure to erase your chakra presence properly so they can't sense you." So this is probably him talking to some of his clones, and pretty much them beginning this invasion these several days later, and that's where that chapter pretty much is going to be ending off. So that's pretty much what we have for the dialogue, and I know that was a lot, so likely what I'm going to do is skim through the pages we have available very, very quick, at least in comparison to this, because I think we're like 20 minutes in now, and I mean, it's all the dialogue here. I just didn't expect it to be this much, but let's keep things moving on to the actual panels. Alright, so on to the actual panels of the chapter. We have the cover to start things off. It's a solo cover for Inojin, and I'm not gonna lie, pretty cool cover, I'd say. I like the fit. It goes in with the background nice. Ikimoto's really good with blending that stuff. So cool stuff, honestly. I can't hate. When Inojin's design first came out, I definitely wasn't too big of a fan. I still think that his haircut isn't the greatest, but it's definitely, the design has been something that's like somewhat grown on me, or I've at least become accustomed to it. So, not bad, but overall the cover, I like it. I really do. So, cool stuff there, and Inojin is definitely a big part of this chapter. So, good on him. But let's do a little speed run here. Ada saved Sarada and Sumire. That's like the page of that. Seems like they're both getting a hug from Ada. Keep it moving. Kawaki again angry. And Amado's, talking about the whole Akebi topic, and he has Amado pinned against the wall. So Kawaki crash out right there. So here's page 1. Damon still has both their necks grabbed. Again, I'm just going to try not to jump too much into translations because we already went through the dialogue. Page 2, Damon lets them go and is just telling them pretty much that, like, yeah, I can take you guys out in an instant if I really wanted to. Just a little flex, And page 3 is pretty much them having this conversation now with Ada about why they weren't affected by the charm. Page 4 kind of talks about how it happened subconsciously, and that's pretty much what Ada's saying. Page 5, they're having that little bit of a flashback to that conversation in Boruto Naruto Next Generations. I remember when this chapter came out, a lot of people weren't happy, and they're like, damn, where's Boruto headed? This is probably one of the weaker chapters we've had in a while. I still remember the backlash on that one, even though it wasn't all that bad, but I can see in comparison where it might have lacked. So Ada's pretty much just talking about here how she was happy and all, and a little bit more about having a genuine normal relationship. So she can't imagine them trying to hurt her at this point. Page 7, she's basically saying if she does die to them, it's not too bad of a way to go. Page 8, that hug. Page 9, the hug continues, and pretty much just reaffirming that friendship. Same thing here for page 10. Page 11, Ada's just saying once again, nice to meet you guys, and they got Damon smirking down there. A little bit of a side look from Sarada and Sumire there. You can tell that, like, maybe they're a little relieved to be okay, but at the same time, they know they can't really do anything even if they wanted to. Page 12, they're talking about this jutsu right here that Mamushi has with the splits and all that. So that's that. Page 13, Shikamaru is, discussing with them too about the increase in number, but now they're pretty much talking about how that intelligence drastically decreases. Page 14, they talk about crushing the eyes and how 20 to 30 is a good baseline range to take them out. Page 15, they talk about some flaws potentially in that plan of like why one can't stay back at the base. And again, just the stupidity is addressed. Page 16, they're talking about why fighting in Konoha would be advantageous for them. So there's that. Page 17, got Jura just chilling in the village over here, just making some stops, and people are making some sightings of him. Page 18 right here is them confirming Jura doesn't like rampaging in Konoha. And, oops, I didn't mean to click that. So, pretty much an instinctual thing is that the Ten Tails is going to fear, well, the Ten Tails fear is never going to disappear. And so they're always going to fear Jura at the end of the day, the others. So they're going to respect his wishes to a degree. So page 19 is addressing Inojin mastering this new jutsu. Page 20 talks about like the 2 days aspect. And pretty much towards the end of it, Koji says you only learned how to do this because Himawari was defeated, so in order to avenge her. So now Inojin's saying on page 21, yeah, I only need 1 day now instead. I don't even need to. So over here, we have this stuff going on with Amado and Kawaki, page 23. We did skip 22 here for some reason. Page 24, Amado's pinned against that wall. Page 25, we see Amado's coughing, but we also see Delta pretty much in the pod, or Akebi if you want to count it as Amado's daughter. But yeah, Delta's chilling in that pod right now. Here's actually page 22. It seems like maybe they're reviewing some footage, actually, if you base it off page 22. So Kawaki's just going over his thoughts, I guess, to Amado there. Page 26, pretty much Kawaki's using the daughter card against Amado right now, and that's more or less what's going on. Let's see, I don't think we have more on like the translated end from this page, but I'm just gonna show you guys the rest. Oh, never mind, we had 27 just pop up. So this is the interrogation going on where Konohamaru is talking to Kubo. So that's going on there, but nonetheless, I am going to cut over to a different page where we should have the rest of the chapter, but just not with these little rough translations. So unfortunately, these last 12 pages are still not sorted out at this point. So I'm going to take a guess on what some of them might be. Thankfully, it's not really an action-heavy chapter, so there's not as much going on in terms of the panels. I feel like the dialogue is personally more important for this month's chapter. So we're going to run through this really, really quick. I'm going to just try giving my best guess of what it is. This is the leaker, by the way, who leaked it this month. So that's pretty much what's up with the order. As you can see, it is pretty messed up. But we'll be able to put some stuff together, hopefully. So this page right here is that one referring to that Boruto Sumire interaction at the end in the 30s. So more towards the end of the chapter. This page right here is Sumire pretty much just dipping from the situation where Ada's grabbing Sarada and leaving Sarada there. And then this is Koji explaining that ability more so to Shikamaru. So we did hop around a bit there for sure. Konohamaru being interrogated right here. Sai is there as well. Again, more of that interrogation. I think we did just cover that page though on 27. Let's see if there's anything else new. End of the chapter. This is the invasion by Mamushi, and this is 5 of them to start off. We'll see how the village fares, but we need him to pretty much get to 20 to 30. But we're starting off with 5 with no power restraints, so we'll see how that goes. But that's where the chapter ends, in case you were wondering what the last panel was. A little bit more chatter there between Koji and Inoji and Boruto. This is one of the pages in the 30s where Boruto's pretty much handing that sword over to Sumire and talking about that technique. Let's see. Another one. And again, this is a reference to Boruto, Naruto Next Generations. I feel like this kind of gives me the vibe of the whole situation that happened with when they were first learning about the ninja tech and all that. So I feel like this is reminding me a little bit of that personally, and I do think there is a little bit of a connection to that. Boruto's pretty much also talking about how his sword is a bit chipped. We also see Mitsuki here, which wasn't mentioned in the dialogue section, but Mitsuki is there, makes a quick little panel appearance. Let's see, got Konohamaru communicating over here with Shikamaru. Sai is looking like he's trying to be perceptive of something. But I don't know if Sai is going to catch on here for sure. Let's see if there's anything else. Konohamaru talking back to Kubo right here. Sai honestly doesn't look very happy either in this situation. Sai might be Team Kubo here. I'm not going to lie, guys. Which, again, it makes sense for most of the village to be on that side because they don't know what Boruto's actually done, right? So it makes sense. More Kawaki and Amado interactions. Let's see if there's anything else left. Here's another page of Sumire pretty much just talking about how that weapon is going to be different and changed, referring to his sword. So another one of those pages we hadn't seen, and this was the one where he ended up surprising Sumire. Boruto's pretty much just chilling on the side. Aura farming as usual, you know how it is for Boruto and Two Blue Vortex especially. But yeah, we got most of the Sumire and Boruto interaction in like 5 pages, I want to say, and then it leads to that little time jump where Mamushi's invading. Another shot right here of Shikamaru talking over here to Konohamaru, and Konohamaru, we don't know what his answer is about cooperation yet, but I feel like just based off stuff he's been putting together, I feel like personally he's going to say yes. So that might be it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. I think I touched on all those pages that weren't covered in the first 27. I do want to apologize to you guys that they're out of order, but unfortunately that's just this month's situation in terms of how everything leaked. And yeah, I could have possibly waited a little bit more, but I don't know when they would have been out for sure. So I'd rather get these spoilers out sooner, especially because I feel like the dialogue is more important to go over in this month's chapter. But all in all, that's going to be it for this month's video. Hopefully this didn't crack too much past 30. I do feel like this is around 30 minutes. Hopefully, though, you guys did enjoy this month's spoilers. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I personally think it was pretty good in terms of the setting up aspect for what's to come, and leaves us on a pretty interesting cliffhanger for the battle to come beginning in next month's chapter. But that's it for this one. If you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel if you guys are new. Look forward to my review, which should be out in a couple days as well, once the chapter officially drops, or once some maybe fan translated version comes out, maybe like the day before. And if I feel like that's accurate enough, I might make a review off that. But most likely the day the chapter drops. Look forward to that. But yeah, hope you guys have a good day whenever you guys are watching this video. I'm Rewinds, and I'm out.